Broadcasting from the North Fulton studio of Business RadioX, it's time for North Fulton Voices. This show is brought to you by the North Fulton Improvement Network, addressing the workforce housing crisis in our region. Now, here are your hosts.
Welcome again to another edition of North Fulton Voices. I'm John Ray, and I'm alongside Jack Murphy and Kathy Swahn, both of the North Fulton Improvement Network. Jack, Kathy, welcome again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. It's great to have you back for another edition of this show. And today we're talking with experts on education about the housing issue and what that means for us here in North Fulton. Jack?
Yes, and we're happy to be here and happy that our guests made time for this. We usually like to start with a little bit of some data just to frame the conversation. And the first thing we wanted to mention was over the last several years, the Fulton County population has increased 10%, and enrollment has decreased by 7% in Fulton County schools. That's throughout the county. From 2021 to 2024, homeless students rose from 262 to 365 in North Fulton alone. The last time I looked at it, it's almost 39% of the homeless students in the county are in North Fulton, which would, I think, surprise most residents. At the beginning of this year, free and reduced lunch numbers, that's the folks that are usually considered economically disadvantaged in Fulton County schools, in North Fulton County, increased in every school, which is surprising, bouncing back from the pandemic. And in Redfin is a national housing data organization. The difference in home prices between highly rated school systems and average school systems can be 20 to 40%. Most of us living in North Fulton probably moved here for the high quality schools. And so that's something that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, so we want to retain our high level of services for schools, parks, everything. And our schools have been the pride, both private and public, of our community. Today, we're going to have two folks, subject matter experts, one from the private sector, one from the public sector, discuss with us issues regarding staffing, retention, et cetera, relative to housing challenges that we've got here in North Fulton. We'll start with you, Dr. Stephen Palmer from the Cottage School. Just give us a little introduction on your work.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us here. I appreciate the time and the conversation to talk about what we're looking at facing, and it is with the school system. I'm Dr. Steve Palmer. I'm the head of school at the Cottage School, and it is a challenging subject that we're approaching, trying to retain and also attract valuable teachers. As we all know, that is key to a child's success, is having a great teacher, and to find them and keep them is a challenge in the North Georgia area.
Great. We look forward to hearing from you. Okay. Our other guest is from Fulton County Public Schools, Dr. Gonzalo La Cava.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here this afternoon. And my name's Gonzalo La Cava. I'm the current chief of HR for Fulton County Schools, and I've been in public education for over 27 years. Not only do I bring a perspective on human resources, I also bring a perspective in regards to our teachers, because I was a teacher once as a special education teacher. And I was also a leader, a principal, and a principal supervisor. So I bring this robust knowledge in regards to what teachers are going through, what leaders are going through, and also the challenges our district is facing in regards to how do we continue to recruit at a high level, but also retain at a high level as well. And I've worked in two very large school districts, and we face a similar problems in regards to housing. When I was in South Florida, we saw that the prices of housing continue to be astronomical. Many of our teachers worked in that school district, but traveled many miles. And that's huge because that impacts the pocket. And here in Fulton County Schools, we hear a lot about our teachers saying, hey, we got to drive a long way. What are you guys doing around housing? So very interested in this topic.
Good.
I love this topic. I've been in the housing conversation for a very long time and excited to have this conversation with you
Good.
all.
That's good to know. And so you both touched on it, the trends that we're seeing for lack of affordable housing in the area that you're drawing from to recruit your teachers. Fulton County bus drivers, I know, is a big deal too. How much do you think of local affordability is affecting that work? You want to go there first, Steve?
When you talk about local affordability, it is a crisis. When we have teachers, I have an example of a teacher that's driving from Noonan, and that's a pretty good distance from here. The Cottage School is a school that caters and services students with special needs. So we're on the students on the spectrum of autism to language-based learning. And to find those specialized is a challenge of its own, as in the public school it would be too. But to find them and have them look to stay is a challenge. I say that I try to pay them in sunshine. Both of us being from Florida, I use that reference, and they look at me, what do you mean sunshine? And literally trying to look at other variables that would attract them. From trying to keep up with the benefits to, for example, in our school setting, our classes are all under 10. So when I say pay them in sunshine, those quality things that make that quality of life, but it's still right now balancing the housing with people driving and commuting. They've got to love what they do and love where they're at.
And both of your campuses are located in Roswell.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you have a teacher coming from Noonan.
I have teachers coming from all over. We service kids from 13 different districts too. So it's challenging for that. So yeah, we have a lot of people that live outside of Roswell.
That's a long drive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gonzalo, you obviously serve both North and South Fulton. For our listeners, they know we have a very large school district. Can you talk specifically affecting just the North Fulton? A lot of the data is not separated. We'd love to hear from you on your teachers, bus drivers, support staff, maintenance, everything from your North Fulton schools.
Absolutely. And this is a topic that just doesn't impact the North and the South of Fulton County. It impacts every single teacher, but if we're talking about specifically the North, there's a lot of factors that are impacting teachers staying in Fulton County and driving from many different places, from Forsyth or from DeKalb or from even further school districts. But more than just rising mortgages and inventory and rising rentals, we also have the cost of gasoline, right? That's not going backwards. It continues to stay very high. Even though people keep telling us inflation's going down, I just haven't seen the impact of it going down. So that's a huge impact for our teachers. The other thing is car insurance has gone up 20%. Mortgage insurance has gone up X percent. And so everything continues to go up. So teachers are trying to find the best way to make ends meet. And when teachers move, they tell us they're trying to find the best friend to continue to work in Fulton County schools because it is a great place to work in. We do stay surveys, we do exit surveys, and a lot of people tell us we love Fulton County schools, but we got to get closer to home. We got to find the place that can make this formula work. So they're trading to come work at Fulton to get closer to home. And that's a big impact.
That's a good segue to the next comment. If you could continue, give us the average tenure of a staff, a teacher specifically.
So right now we're averaging, I would say if a teacher starts in Fulton County School, they'll probably go anywhere between 5 and 8 years. So we're starting to see more as people retire, we're starting to see this new group of teachers not go past 10. And that's what we're really thinking through. We know that we pay very well for teachers 14 plus, but we're having a challenge keeping our teachers 0 to 8. And I know that there's our current generation likes to change jobs and go different places, but we're trying to figure out a way, hey, make this the place or the last place you want to work in, because not only do you have a great or better salary, but we also have a pension plan. And so that sometimes is tough as well because they don't see what's going to come in 30 years. They're trying to figure out how can I survive in this environment here in the Atlanta area. 0 to 8 years is what I'm seeing. And
how about you, Steve, at the Cottage School?
Ours is very unique. It's anywhere from 10 to plus. We have staff that have been there. School's celebrating. Matter of fact, happy birthday to the Cottage School, 40 years. We're celebrating
Congratulations.
in Roswell, serving students that have special learning needs. We have staff that has been there 20 to 30 plus years. So again, what we're trying to do is find other things that would help want them to stay, fall in love with what they got in the business because they love teaching and they love making a difference in a child's life, but trying to make it a challenge to where it's like the rate of interest is increasing faster than the rate of being able to have their salaries and benefits keep up with that pace. So again, having our dedicated and devoted staff is key. And I'd say for us, the biggest piece is our culture, is developing and creating that culture that makes them, as we all know, teachers don't go in it for the money. There's got to be other reasons and passions. And so we're trying to and continue developing a culture that nourishes that and has people that want to stick around for a long time. But it doesn't change the fact that, like I said, gas is going up and food is not getting any cheaper either. Balancing that is a challenge.
Y'all both have a lot of balls in the air. We're not even talking about the reading, math scores, whatnot, just staff issues.
And the fact that every parent is an expert on their child's education.
That's true. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time in my career in HR, and one of the things I noticed, I think I've mentioned before on this show that my wife was a school principal, the vulnerability of the new employee in the first 3 to 5 years was the one that both in business and in schools seemed to be where you had to really pay some attention. And there you can't ramp up salaries fast enough. Have you found similar things? What are you doing with those new teachers to get them anchored in that school or in the school system?
As I mentioned before, we try to look at other ways besides just facing the money, looking to develop. You get the young ones that come in, equipping them is right away. What do they need right away? But for them to do their job, be successful, what we're trying to do is that culture of developing for the long term. As we mentioned, once they hit a certain number of years, some things go a lot easier for them. And then take in consideration, as you mentioned, the first 3 years, our new generation of people coming in, from our boomers on the way out, Generation X, Generation Z. So there's various types of personalities coming in. So our main thing is look at ways that we can continue adding those benefits and also developing opportunities that would want to keep them doing what they went in the business do, and that's love helping children.
One of the things our board and our superintendent have done is they've continued to provide salary increases and keep benefits down. But one of the things that we were challenged to do as a human resources organization is how do we develop career pathways? How do we develop additional ways for teachers to get compensated? And one of the things that we started in Fulton County Schools is called Level Up Fulton. And in Level Up Fulton, just to give you a 30,000 foot view, it's pretty much if a teacher's interested in going from a teacher to a reading coach, or a bus driver wants to be a driver to a manager, or a principal wants to go from a school base to a district base. We have a program of development for those teachers. That's why it's called Level Up. It's anywhere from 12 to 18 months. And as they finish their courses, there's an opportunity for them to be compensated with a supplement. We're thinking of different ways to make it. How do we make that part of their salary so that continues to grow? I could tell you that we're one of the very few districts across the country that's really investing in career pathways. It's an idea that many think about, but our board has really said we want to keep our best. We need to give them the best. And so really we're training around that as well. So far, we've had anywhere from 400 to 600 people enter the program. It's a new program. We're still collecting data to see what is the end result. Are we getting the return on investment that we wanted? But I fully believe that when a teacher's invested in and we're providing things that help them to get to the next level, there's a better chance of them staying around for a lot longer period of time. So that's one of the things that our board and our superintendent have really tasked us with. And in HR, we're pushing that through our professional development model.
One of the things that I know you and I talked about earlier, Gonzalo, is housing, providing housing. Some school systems, even APS now, is building housing. But where I grew up in North Carolina, there's several teacher villages that sometimes may seem like it's beyond the stretch of a private school. But when you look at what's happening in some ski resorts where they're having to build housing for employees, or even at Disney and Universal are getting together in both of your old stomping grounds to build housing together. And I didn't think Disney and Universal would ever do anything together. It's a problem that different businesses are starting to deal with. Have you guys ever considered that, or you talked about it? What's your thought on it?
Ours is unique as we sit in beautiful Roswell and beautiful North Georgia, and our property is about 24 plus acres on the Chattahoochee. So you get the Atlanta River corridor in there, and you start looking at what you can and can't do. So for us, we have looked at options of trying to address housing, but on our property, we couldn't build it, and it's not going to happen on there.
Yeah, for Fulton County Schools, with that, we're at that early stage of conversation. I've worked in, like I've told you, in multiple districts from Palm Beach to Orlando, and we've been into public-private partnerships. In Orlando, we worked closely with the housing market, like Lennar and Ryland, and they would build communities. And then within the community, they would set aside 10% of that housing for firemen, police officers, and teachers at a reduced rate, reduced down payment. You had to meet a certain criteria. And they were beautiful homes. Other things that they're doing in Miami-Dade, I work closely with Miami-Dade Public Schools, large systems. They built an elementary school, and then on top of the elementary school, there's an apartment complex. And the apartment complex is very close to restaurants and areas where our incoming population wants to live around. We're not just sticking them somewhere. Hey, we found an old condominium. We're going to revamp it. We're going to put teachers there. We've also, in one of the school districts that I worked in, we surveyed teachers, and we asked them, what do you want to do? Do you want to live in similar housing, dorm style? Do you want to provide you with a loan or some type of, the word's escaping me right now, but some type of monetary incentive so you can buy your own home? And most of them tell us, we don't want to live among other teachers. We do want to have the opportunity to find our home and live in a community that we want. So we're thinking through those things, right? Where do teachers want to live? Where can we build? And what kind of partnerships can we acquire in regards to come up with those public-private partnerships? I've seen them work. I've seen them be successful. And I think teachers want to feel that independence. They just don't want to be told where to live. They want to be able to live where they want. And how do we support them to that?
So like a housing supplement. I know there's some city governments here that supplement first responders, their housing. So a housing supplement where you're actually participating and helping them pay rent or even down payment for home.
Yeah, so there's a down payment. I think it's a reduced down payment for firemen, police officers, and teachers where I came from. Also, the cost of the housing is reduced based on their salary, but then they also have to stay there for a period of at least 7 years. They can't sell unless they sell it within those 3 groups. And so there's some restrictions, but it's also a really good opportunity for many of our firemen, teachers, and police officers to acquire that American dream, which is owning your own home, your own property. So it's been successful. I know that it's continuing to grow. And so that's something that we can continue to have a conversation around.
Interesting.
Yeah, I love the idea of building over existing property because big percentage of housing in North Fulton and in many places is the cost of land. And building over an existing structure means you take that price out and you can get more affordability as you build up. Plus, I start thinking about Raj Chetty's research on mixed income units and what it does for people, and even putting seniors in among teachers is a nice way to get complementary kind of thing. So have you all ever done a scatter plot of where your employees live? Where are you drawing from?
When we look at I don't know if it's a scatter plot, but we have these dynamic graphs that show us where people are coming from. In the South, they're coming in from the Clayton area. In the North, they're coming in from Forsyth. They're coming in from the Gwinnett area, like I shared before. But I couldn't tell you specifically right now, specific cities. I know zones, but we've done that study, and we're still trying to figure out when they leave our schools, where do they go, and when do they come back? Because one of the things that we're noticing as well is teachers do leave Fulton, but then they come back. And as I keep saying, the quality of the school system in Fulton County is way above, I like to say, many of the other school systems as well. So I see that they're coming back to Fulton County. They might have gone or left for more money, but they're coming back because there's so many opportunities in the Fulton area. And now with this Level Up Fulton program, I'm not selling it, but I'm just sharing with the people that are listening that people want to be compensated for the additional work that teachers do, and they do very hard work. They put in a lot of time and effort that never gets compensated. If we had an opportunity to pay something or overtime, and board, I'm just saying this is my opinion. I'm not writing anything here that's a commandment, but I think teachers do appreciate that we are looking out for ways to continue to provide them some sort of compensation for the hard work that they put in each and every single day to educate our kids.
It's funny you say that. When my wife was teaching art, and we'd fill out our taxes, and we'd see that $100 credit for spending money out of your own
for
pocket.
Markers.
That's the first week's crayons.
Yeah. tax credit.
Exactly.
To piggyback on it, as I mentioned earlier, we're very fortunate to open up a second campus, and we'll start that campus on this Tuesday for our elementary. We expanded. We're a K-12 program now. With all this, it's been guided by the board and their direction, and sharing the vision of where we're at and where we want to go. But at the same time, one of the goals, as most schools and businesses have strategic plans, but one of the goals in there is, I say it's all about you as a teacher. What can we do to make that a goal in our 5+ year strategic plan? Does that include some form of assistance in housing? Yes. And as just mentioned here, my colleague has mentioned about teachers do a lot more than that's even an ask of. I call it the end sum. They'll do their job and some. And all those end sums need to be looked at. And for us, whether it's the Cottage School or other private schools or public schools, you got to look at that and some. How can we compensate them and balance? Of course, the main goal is to make sure that our children get everything that they are deserving and needed to be successful in life. But that all stems from the teacher. As I say, both of us being from Florida, I call it the Disney World effect. It's magical. And how do we keep that pixie dust out there? And housing is part of one of our strategic plans to figure out how we can assist teachers.
There's so many private schools up here in the North Fulton area. That's encouraging to know that in your strategic planning, your board is looking at that, because it's critically important. If we're losing students out of Fulton County schools and we're not really sure why, I mean, are they switching to private? Are they moving because they can't afford the housing? The fact that y'all are looking at it, Steve, at the Cottage School is really encouraging. And I think we need more forecasting and more planning. And we can't wait, because it takes forever to get a community built around new construction.
One of the things that kind of leads, that it would impact both of you, is this idea of declining enrollment in North Fulton due to population drop. We have seen, I think I've mentioned before, that we asked Fulton County Schools to say for a certain time period how many students' records were transferred outside of the system, outside of the county, so that we could see it's not just homeschooling or private schools. They do have an impact on enrollment, but we think part of the population, particularly those that are earning less than $200,000 a year a household, are leaving North Fulton. And when you see Gwinnett increasing and Forsyth increasing in enrollment, it's not just because of people moving from outside of the state. I think it's probably some migration from folks. And then you've got the projections on less children being born and all those other things. Are you seeing that now? Are you preparing for it? What's your reaction to?
When COVID hit, I thought, okay, let's see where we go from here. And my target was what's going to happen after COVID. So during COVID, for the Cottage School, maintained pretty stable and increased enrollment. But as we're coming off the residuals is where we're starting to see trends starting to form of, are they relocating? With all school districts, you want to embrace that culture of diversity and to go and try to find all those talented people out there to get them to come in this area becomes a challenge, especially when you're not, gaining students as you see them heading other places where their families looking to be able to afford where they live and have that quality of life.
Yeah, I think one area that Fulton County Schools, among many in the nation, are looking at the enrollment, their birth rate. People are, in a nice way, their kids are leaving, and those homes are not being sold, they're staying. But so we're looking at our enrollment as it compares to our schools. Do we need as many schools as before? Also, we're looking at the age of our buildings. Do we keep those buildings, or do we refurbish those buildings, or do we close them or rebuild them? So we are in that phase right now. We're looking at every single piece. Why are people leaving? Why do people come back? Why do people stay? What do we do with these old campuses? Do we continue to pour money into them? So we are looking at, our board has been very diligent in regards to making the superintendent look at all those components. And of course, we just hope with brand new marketing and brand new awareness in regards to what we're doing in Fulton County Schools, people will say, hey, you know what? We're not going to move to Forsyth. There is a great public education system here in Fulton. We don't need to go anywhere else. But it is a business, and I think everybody else knows that. So we need to do our best part to keep the students that are here in Fulton with our branding, our marketing, whatever it might be.
We've been talking about the fact that some of us are empty nesters and still in that house with 3 to 5 bedrooms. where a young family should be living, but there's nowhere for those empty nesters to go.
Yeah, I won't put you on the spot to ask what's going to happen with Spalding Drive because I want to have the community.
I was thinking the same thing,
The
Jack.
community needs to have their voices heard.
Absolutely right.
But it's a good spot. I was speaking with someone in planning in Decatur, where they have been very effective at getting workforce housing, middle income housing built, but they are now trying to urge developers to think about building 3 and 4 bedroom houses because the 1 and 2 bedrooms isn't enough to support the school system. They're seeing success at one thing that's having an impact on school systems. So it does take an awful lot of coordination to try to do that forecast. And I'm glad that every March I look with great anticipation at the school board meeting because that's when you talk about enrollment. And so I grab that right away because I think one of the things that I've always respected about Fulton County schools is their ability to forecast and what's enrollment going to be. And I know that's very complicated. It's made even tougher with birth rate and the other things, the migration. What kinds of things can we do to help you all?
One of the things I was thinking about when I think about the housing challenges and the housing conversation, I think number one is we cannot leave teachers out of this conversation. I think a lot of school districts across the country try to solve this and they don't really know what the teachers are doing. So when I was in my school district in South Florida, we asked a lot of questions. And where do you want to live? Where don't you want to live? We sent surveys out. We had meetings. I was part of the housing leadership, the housing council of Palm Beach as well, where they were involved in asking teachers, inviting teachers. So one thing that I always say is let's get teachers on the floor, right? Because if not, what are we doing? I think the second thing is the awareness. I think it starts here, but also can we have a North or Fulton conference where we can showcase best practices from across the nation? What are people doing? That's where I learned of that idea of these shipping containers in some districts in Philadelphia. And I think in Oakland, they're turning these shipping containers into housing for teachers. And they're pretty cool. Wood floors, they're very modern. People want to live there. So I think that's another piece. I think the partnerships you're talking about, whether it's developers or whether it's people that have some type of influence economically or just with knowledge, I think it's very important. Also the policymakers as well. We need to make sure that they're at the table as well. I think, how do we do that? Because I'm just one small piece, right, of 11 metro Atlanta areas and 67 school districts in Georgia that are all facing similar situations. So I think those are things that I don't know if you directly can impact, but I think how do we continue to build on that? How do we bring in housing councils or people that are interested in this to have continuing conversation? Then let's bring on the superintendents and then let's bring in some policymakers and have further conversations up the chain. I think the more light we can shine on this issue, I think the more attention it's going to get because it's a big challenge, but it's a big problem for our teachers.
And I think as we mentioned before, education is a business and all those business people and owners out there, the big key is sustainability. Let's look 5-10 years down the road. Not only we're in this together, we're all in this together, but private and public schools, we love our area, we love Georgia, and we want to retain not only the teachers, but students too. You want them to come back and contribute. You don't want to have your brightest and best who are in great districts. And yes, North Fulton has phenomenal districts, public and private. But once they're gone, it's their goal to get out of here and not come back. So we want to continue that conversation of it's a trickle effect from the teachers, retaining the good teachers, but also having our good students who are learning from them stay here and contribute, and also contribute back to those businesses that need employees, whether they be top level executives or those talented individuals that are ready, hands-on, starting at the entry levels. As I agree, conversation needs to go and continue, and there needs to be a lot more stakeholders that are educators involved in that conversation, from teachers on up.
That's a great point we haven't really talked about today, is keeping these kids here too, because they're all brilliant and there's so many opportunities for employment or future education right here. So that's a great point. Thanks, Steve.
That is. And I also love the point about getting teachers involved. The difficult voice to capture is the yet to be teachers, because I see some of these housing options as recruiting tools. It's not just sunshine. It's also lights and refrigerators and that kind of thing. But you don't know what people are thinking that don't get jobs in Fulton County schools.
No quick fix on any of this, but we're very grateful that you could both take some time to come up here and meet with us and discuss your challenges and your great opportunities. So there is a lot of sunshine, a lot of bright, which is good. That's very encouraging.
And one of the things that we like to do at the ends of these shows is talk about what can the community do. And I think both of our doctors today have talked about what you can do. And they're all very important things and very similar to what we talk about. But for citizens that really do want to get involved, see for yourself. Look and see how many homes there are in your area that a teacher could afford. Starting salary last year was $58, I think, somewhere around there. And where could they live? Even what apartments could be there? So we'd like you to get involved in it. How could they get involved? Where could they find rentals that are affordable? Another thing that we're starting to put a lot of energy into is comprehensive plans. Every city, the 6 cities in North Fulton, have to put together a comprehensive plan in order to get any federal funds. And when they do those plans, they have to ask the community's input and find out when your community is doing their plan and get involved. They want citizens to give their views. Please do that. And as Kathy said, this isn't a quick fix. So do what you can to help.
Jack, great words to end on. Lots of things that folks can do to get involved and learn. That's part of the issue here, is to learn and then go get involved. I want to thank again our great guest, Dr. Steve Palmer from the Cottage School, Dr. Gonzalo La Cava from Fulton County Schools. Thank you both so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And folks, just a quick reminder that this show, North Fulton Voices, is presented by the North Fulton Improvement Network. Go to improvenorthfulton.org to learn more, get more information there as well. North Fulton Voices is the go-to source for in-depth analysis and discussion of the North Fulton missing middle housing crisis and livability challenges that are confronting this region. Keep listening as we understand the implications of this problem, explore innovative solutions, and examine why housing solutions for this area are so vital for the future. You can find the show on your favorite podcast app. Please subscribe while you're there. Apple, Spotify, we're on all the major apps. And this show is sponsored and offered as a service to the community by yours truly and the North Fulton affiliate of Business RadioX. So for Jack Murphy and Kathy Swahn, I'm John Ray. Join us next time here on North Fulton Voices.
Thank you for joining us on North Fulton Voices. This show is presented by the North Fulton Improvement Network, working to solve our community's workforce housing challenges. For more information, visit improvenorthfulton.org.